The Grand Plaza shimmered under its crystal chandeliers, throwing delicate shadows across the wedding hall. I smoothed my navy dress, modest, not designer, but impeccably made, like everything else I owned. Table 27, my sister Christina said with a sly grin, pointing toward a corner near the kitchen doors. That's where they stick the budget guests. I looked down at my seating card. After 15 years running a hospitality empire across Asia, I had returned home just in time for our cousin Maria's wedding, held, unbeknownst to my family, at one of my newest properties. Still working in hotels abroad? Christina asked, fussing with her maid of honor gown. Taking reservations or something? Something like that, I said with a small smile, noting the staff moving with practiced efficiency. They didn't know I had arrived yet. I liked observing operations in their natural flow. Mom approached, her signature look of disappointed elegance in place. At least you made it back for the wedding, she said. Though Christina handled all the planning with the hotel. I'm sure she did, I replied, remembering the overpriced contract I had glanced at earlier. The sales manager in charge would have an interesting conversation tomorrow. The Plaza is one of the city's finest hotels, Christina boasted. Not that you know much about luxury properties, Elena. How's that demanding overseas job of yours? If only she knew I owned 30 luxury hotels across 3 continents, or that the Grand Plaza was just the latest jewel in my portfolio. It's going well, I said, taking note of service gaps and staff inefficiencies that clearly needed addressing. Training would need a complete overhaul. Mom leaned in, glancing at my non-designer attire. Well, couldn't have afforded something a bit fancier? Christina's Vera Wang gown had graced the pages of Modern Bride. My phone buzzed with news about our latest Dubai acquisition, a $2 billion property poised to redefine luxury hospitality in the Middle East. Yet here I was, relegated to table 27. The Plaza rarely hosts guests like this, Christina continued, noting my water glass instead of champagne. Maria insisted on inviting everyone. The hotel manager hurried past, coordinating staff, oblivious to my presence. The acquisition had been finalized quietly, through proxies, keeping my ownership a secret. They have a 2-year waiting list for weddings, Mom boasted. Christina's connections barely secured us a spot. They usually don't cater to our budget, but the owner made an exception. I nodded politely, checking another message about Dubai. Exactly. Christina's smile widened. Though no one seems to know who owns it now. Some overseas investment group, Rivera Global Holdings? Actually, I said, it's my company. The one I built from scratch while everyone thought I was just working hotels. Mom jumped in. Speaking of work, Christina's husband knows someone hiring front desk staff. I'm doing just fine, I murmured, observing the wedding planners scramble with seating issues. Tomorrow, the staff would learn that the so-called budget guest at table 27 was actually their boss. The reception was in full swing when the first hint of my identity emerged. A junior manager froze mid-scroll, glancing between his tablet and table 27, horror dawning on his face. Ms. Rivera? He asked shakily. Elena Rivera, I confirmed, noting Christina's dance pause as she realized her budget table had been disrupted. There's been a mistake, he stuttered. The ownership documents just arrived with your photo. You're the new owner. I've confirmed it, I said, rising as the general manager approached, pale as a sheet. Though I must admit, table 27 provides an interesting view of our service standards. Whispers rippled through the ballroom, the music fading into the background as my presence transformed the evening. Christina's perfectly styled curls drooped as the hotel's management team swarmed around her mortified sister. Madam, the general manager nearly sobbed, if we had known the owner would be here, you would have acted differently, I said, raising an eyebrow. Just as you treat the guests at table 27. Mom's champagne glass slipped, spilling across her designer gown as the truth unfolded. The daughter she assumed needed help landing front desk work actually owned not only the Grand Plaza, but 30 other luxury properties worldwide. Your sister owns the hotel? Maria's new husband whispered to Christina, who sank into a nearby chair. Oh, multiple hotels, my assistant interjected, arriving with a sleek portfolio. The plaza is just the latest addition to Ms. Rivera's holdings. Though after tonight's observations, some management changes are clearly required. The wedding planner who had ignored my advice earlier froze in place, watching her career flash before her eyes. The sales manager who'd overcharged my family tried desperately to fade into the background. But you work in hotels? Mom stammered. I own them, I corrected, taking a tablet displaying the plaza's current metrics, alongside resorts, restaurants, and properties across 3 continents. And judging by tonight, the plaza requires substantial improvements. Christina's proud connections for securing the venue suddenly seemed insignificant as the staff scrambled to relocate me to the private owner's table, which I politely declined. I prefer table 27, I said with a smile. It's provided a perfect view of how we treat our budget guests. The general manager looked ready to faint. The table assignments were a complete mistake, he murmured. No, I said smoothly. They were highly instructive, along with the overpriced wedding package, the inconsistent service, and the obvious hierarchy of guest treatment, issues that will be addressed in tomorrow's management meeting. Mom's carefully composed expression faltered as she watched the hotel staff defer to her once underachieving daughter. All those years overseas were spent building Rivera Global Holdings, I said, pulling up our portfolio on the ballroom screens. The company, valued at $12 billion, had properties in 14 countries. The guests gaped as images of my luxury hotels flashed across the screens, each more exclusive than the plaza, each proof of what I had built while everyone assumed I was merely working in hospitality. The Dubai property opens next month, my assistant noted. Though after tonight's observations, the plaza may demand immediate attention. Christina's face fell, matching her wilting bouquet, as she realized her connections for booking the venue had actually been negotiating with her sister's employees. Now, I said, checking my watch, shall we review the service improvements, or let the bride enjoy her wedding in the hotel she didn't know her cousin owned? The night is far from over, and I have standards to enforce. The ballroom atmosphere shifted instantly as the staff scrambled to correct their earlier disregard. The manager who had placed me at table 27 frantically reviewed security footage, no doubt tallying every time he had passed the owner unnoticed. Your hotel portfolio, Christina's husband called across the room, investment instincts kicking in, includes the Singapore Lotus, the one your firm tried to acquire last month. I smiled. Yes. Along with the Monaco Grand and Dubai Crescent, though those were acquired through shell companies. We prefer discretion with ownership transitions. Christina went from pale to ashen, realizing her husband's biggest failed deals had been blocked by her supposedly budget-conscious sister. But you never mentioned, Mom began weakly, that I had been quietly building the fastest-growing luxury hotel group in Asia. I finished accepting another tablet, this one detailing our latest acquisition targets. Everyone else was too preoccupied boasting about Christina's wedding planning skills to ask questions. The planner herself hovered nervously nearby, likely realizing that her most important client was actually one of my employees. The service gaps, I continued, bringing up the plaza's performance analytics, require immediate attention, starting with guest classifications and table assignments. The general manager nodded frantically, scribbling notes. Of course, Ms. Rivera. We had no idea. That's precisely the point, I said smoothly. Every guest deserves the same attention as the owner, not just those in designer gowns. Mom's social circle had congregated at the edge of the dance floor, witnessing the daughter they had underestimated quietly reveal herself as the force behind their favorite luxury hotels. Your sister's little hotel job, one whispered to Christina. It's actually a global luxury empire, my assistant interjected. And we just acquired 3 more properties this morning. The contracts are ready for your signature, Ms. Rivera. Christina's meticulously orchestrated wedding spectacle was eclipsed by the revelation that her supposedly embarrassing sister owned the venue, and dozens more like it. The plaza's renovation plans, I announced, projecting designs onto the ballroom screens, will commence next week. Though we might wait until after the wedding to discuss a full management overhaul. The staff who had earlier dismissed me now stood alert, watching me calmly sip water at the so-called budget table while reviewing their careers on my tablet. Now, I said, spotting another service lapse. Shall we address why the couple at table 28 has been waiting 10 minutes for their entree, or would you like me to continue my anonymous observations? The evening was still young, and I had an entire hotel's operations to refine. Later, in the plaza's private owner's office, my office, I looked out over the city lights stretching to the horizon. Senior staff lingered nervously behind me while my family hovered by the doorway, still processing what they had just witnessed. The plaza will undergo major changes, I declared, bringing the renovation plans onto the wall displays. Starting with service standards and guest management protocols. Images of my other properties filled the screens: Singapore Lotus with its floating gardens, Monaco Grand's underwater suites, and the Dubai Crescent rising like a golden moon above the desert sands. From my vantage point, I caught Christina's reflection in the window, her maid of honor gown suddenly appearing overdressed next to the understated elegance of true luxury hospitality. Mom's social boasting about her daughter's wedding planning achievements had fallen completely silent. Your sister's hotels, the general manager explained with reverence to my family, set the global benchmark for luxury hospitality. The old standards were outdated, I added, turning to face the room. And that will change immediately. Though table 27 may remain as it is, a reminder of how no guest should ever be treated. The staff shifted uncomfortably as I brought up the evening service footage. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the most uncomfortable moments, I said, locking eyes with my family. The girl they thought was just working in hotels has been quietly redefining luxury hospitality. Because the greatest achievements rarely happen in designer dresses or on social media. They happen in hard work, vision, and discretion. The city lights danced across the office walls. My office. My hotel. My empire. The quiet sister in a simple navy dress had just revealed herself as the most powerful person in the room.